Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. It is me, the sassy blonde writer, here to talk to you about different types of story structure. Different stories must be told in different ways. Today I'm going to tell you all about the different ones that you can use and where they are most common. This is by no means an exhaustive list because there are a lot of different types of story structures, and honestly they're evolving, creating new ones and new story structures and narrative structures every single day. All story structures have the following elements in common. You have this inciting incident, character growth, plot twist or midpoint reversal, rising action or build-up, climax or confrontation, falling action, resolution, that would be the ending. Each story structure that I'm about to go over includes all of those elements. What makes them unique is how much time they spend in each part. Think of your story like a piece of pie. At the end of the day, you're going to have a story, you're going to have a slice of pie. The structure is just different ways you can slice it. If you are a planner, this video is going to help you figure out how you want to structure the plot of your book because, like I said, different stories have to be told in different ways. You're not going to unfold a mystery the same way you would a romantic comedy. If you are a pantser, keep these in mind as story beats as you write. This will help you when you get to the editing process, make it sure that your story flows all together, you don't have a lot of rambling or pointless scenes in your story. If you are editing, this will also help you because you can figure out what you need to add or to cut from your manual. 7-point story structure.
So 7-point structure is interesting because a lot of the elements of a story go by a different name, but they still occur in the specific structure. So the first part is called the hook in 7-point structure. You could also refer to it as setup. It is the character's starting point. It is the opposite of the resolution. So obviously this is where setup of the story occurs. It's when you're introduced to the characters, the setting, all of that sort of thing. It's when you have the hook for your story, when you kind of introduce the audience to everything and gets everybody interested in what's going on. Then you have point 2, plot turn 1, or the inciting incident. This is the event that sets your story in motion and moves you from the beginning to the midpoint. So obviously you're starting to move forward. You introduce the conflict and your character's world changes. Obviously, that's the point of the inciting incident. Then you have 3 is pinch point 1, the rising action. This is when you apply the pressure. Often you introduce the antagonist here. Then you have 4, the midpoint or midpoint reversal, where your character moves from reaction to action or vice versa, depending on the type of story you are telling. A lot of times they have to do something to stop the antagonist, or at least who they think the antagonist is, or their opposing force. 5 is pinch point 2, which is usually your climax. That is where you apply more pressure. Your story takes the ultimate dive. Your character is at their darkest moment and they are about to lose everything. Then 6, plot turn 2, which would be your falling action right after pinch point 2. Here you move the story from the midpoint to the end, the resolution. Your character gets to or realizes that they have the final piece of information they need to achieve what they needed to do for the midpoint. And then, of course, 7, you have the resolution, which is where everything has been leading up to, and then your character finally achieves, or in some cases, fails to achieve what they have set out to do.
The advocates of this approach advise that you start with your resolution and kind of work backwards. This ensures the dramatic character arc for your hero if you are plotting. So it starts off with the hook or starting point. This is like the first chapter where you're reading it and your reader is going, okay, why do I care about these people? That's your hook. You're trying to get your reader to care about these freaking people. Then you have plot turn 1 or your inciting incident. Then you have your first pinch point, midpoint, your character responds to conflict with action. Plot turn 2 moves the story from the midpoint to the resolution. Your protagonist has everything they need in order to achieve their goal. Then you have the resolution, which is usually coupled in with your climax. Everything in your story leads up to the climax and therefore to the resolution, which is a direct contrast of how your character was at the beginning, because everybody loves character growth. Now, J.K. Rowling, she said some cool things, but Harry Potter is a really good example of this, so bear with me on this. J.K. Rowling uses this in the Harry Potter and the Philosopher, or Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. The hook is in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. This is where we meet Harry living under the stairs. He lives with a terrible family that treats him like garbage. You're reading the book and you're just like, what? what? I need to find out what happened, especially when you read the first chapter and you find out he was dropped off by a bunch of wizards. You're like, oh. Then you have plot turn 1. That's when Harry finds out he's a wizard. Then stuff happens. Then pinch point 1, the trolls attack, and Harry and his friends realize they're the only ones who can save the day because they're the only ones there. Then more stuff happens. Then you have your midpoint, which isn't so much a midpoint reversal, but it's just your halfway point where Harry and his friends learn about the Philosopher's Stone and are determined to take it before Voldemort, or at least Snape, finds it. Then pinch point 2, Harry has to face the villain alone after losing Ron and Hermione. So you could argue this is kind of the midpoint reversal, because up until this point it was kind of all about the power of friendship, and now Harry doesn't have his friends right now. He has to face the villain alone after losing Ron and Hermione during their quest to find a stone. Plot turn 2 happens, so pinch points and plot points are different a little bit. So pinch point is when you're like, what's going to happen? Then you have plot turn 2. That's when the mirror reveals Harry's intentions are pure. He's given the Philosopher's Stone. And then the resolution, he defeats Voldemort. So quickly, let's just put it all together. So there are generally 4 main ways to structure your story. Sometimes they have different names, but it's all essentially the same. So you have 2-act structure like Hamilton or most sitcoms, 7-point structure like Harry Potter, 3-act structure, most common in Hollywood, uses Save the Cat, and 5-act structure, which is the most common in Shakespeare and also in mystery. Each structure includes these different things. You have the setup, the inciting incident, the character growth, the plot twist or midpoint reversal, rising action or build-up, the climax or confrontation, falling action, and resolution. How do you pick which one to use? Think about what kind of story you want to tell. Like I was saying, different stories need to be told in different ways. It's all about how you want to tell your story and how quickly you want to go through it. You want to think about why you are writing the story and how you want to unfold all those details. So that's all I got for you today. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this one, please hit that subscribe button. I post new videos 1 to 2 times a week. And of course, happy writing!